When the Lewis and Clark expedition departed St. Louis in the spring of 1804, the members of the Corps of Discovery expected to meet many natural hazards and dangers along the way. However, 3 of the most painful, persistent, and pesky of nature's foes were things that they didn't really expect when they set out. I'm standing next to the most dreaded of these right now. Can you see it? Look a little harder. Can you see it now? The 3 most pesky natural hazards that the Lewis and Clark expedition encountered turned out to be mosquitoes, gnats, and this, the prickly pear cactus. They first encountered prickly pear cactus in September of 1804 in South Dakota as they traveled up the Missouri River. And from that point on, the prickly pear cactus became a source of terrible pain and woe. On their outbound journey from St. Louis to the Pacific Ocean, they ran into fields of prickly pear cactus when walking on the uplands above the river. As they traveled up the Missouri River, they often had to portage their boats up around things like rapids and especially the Great Falls of the Missouri. Then coming down the Clearwater, Snake, and Columbia rivers, there were times when the rapids were so big that they had to take their boats out of the water and again portage or pull their boats around them on land. The Lewis and Clark journals document several species of prickly pear cactus, including the Plains prickly pear, the brittle prickly pear, and this one, the Columbian prickly pear, that's found here at Sacagawea State Park. Captain Clark wrote in his journal in October of 1805, upon arriving here at the confluence of the Snake and Columbia rivers, that he found great quantities of a kind of prickly pears, much worse than any I have before seen. And you can see why. This pad of Columbian prickly pear is sticking to this leather glove. When the Lewis and Clark expedition departed from St. Louis, the men were wearing Army-issued boots, kind of like these. They had hard soles. You would expect that, while it might not be comfortable to walk through prickly pear cactus in these, it wouldn't be complete torture. However, by the time they got to South Dakota, most of the men had worn through their boots, and they were wearing leather shoes made out of deer hide and other animal skins. But as you can see, soft leather is no match for the prickly pear cactus. Each night around the campfire, they would sit down and pull the spines of the prickly pear cactus that they'd walked through out of the soles of their feet where they'd become lodged. You can imagine how painful this was for them. The Columbian prickly pear grows in these sprawling, low-growing mats along the sandy, usually south and southwest facing slopes along the river. These are plants that love our arid climate and dry, sandy soils. When you look at them up close, you can see that they have beautiful soft green and pink colors. And when they bloom, these plants produce often yellow, and sometimes even some species have pink or red flowers. The desert and shrub steppe areas where these grow will come to life in beautiful, vibrant color. Our native species of cactus here in eastern Washington are becoming more and more difficult to find as land is put under cultivation and invasive species like cheatgrass take over sections of the shrub steppe habitat that these cactus would normally be found in. And while the Lewis and Clark expedition thought of them as a pesky plant, they actually are an important part of the natural shrub steppe and dryland ecosystems of eastern Washington. It's important to protect them. And when you find them, enjoy their beauty, especially when they're in bloom, but leave them in place. So as you explore your eastern Washington state parks, keep an eye out for Lewis and Clark's most formidable natural foe, the prickly pear cactus. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that you'll join us next time for another Lewis and Clark adventure, and that you'll get out soon and explore your Washington state parks and find all of the natural beauties hidden in sometimes the most unexpected places. Bye.